I'm very pleased that you have joined me, virtually speaking, in the Styling Centre, because it is here that the 932, this project which is so important to us, was conceived. I'm here today to present this car with a combination of emotion and intelligence. We will gradually discover it together, starting from the front. The front of the 932 is extremely important because it represents the face. It represents what we are saying, the message we wish to communicate through this car. Let's start from the strong points, the emblems, the iconographic headlights of this car that have inspired its design and the car's designer. The shield. As you can see, the shield's dimensions are very strongly proportioned to the front of the car. This serves to emphasize its personality, to renew the emotional thrill which we want an Alfa Romeo car to give. For this reason, as we go into further detail, we have entered inside a bumper, which is no longer a bumper as such, but rather a shell that extends the shape of the front of the car. Here are the air inlets. These are real air vents that serve to cool the engine, and are a gentle hint, a small reference to the company's past, its history. The two side whisker-like mouldings, typical of Alfa Romeo, are in turn given added emphasis by the bumpers on this shell that encloses the car from below, and then the large air inlet with the fog lamps. The Alfa Romeo mark is obviously placed at the top of the shield and is accompanied by a slight moulding which we refer to as the comet on the hood. The light clusters are integrated under a single transparent cover, but are visible as two separate round headlamps below the glass. Still on the subject of the front, as you can see, the number plate is rather special. It is placed on one side, owing to the depth of the shield, and therefore for functional reasons because of car cooling. And this depth, this symbol, this large sign represented by our shield. As we continue to discover and describe the car, you can see that the V-shaped hood stems out of the shield and is prolonged up the front pillar of the car. This aspect is very important because when designing the mudguards for the car, we bore in mind the presence of the mudguard on the wheel, which can be fitted with up to 17-inch tires. The on-the-road presence of the car is an extremely important factor, and in fact the mudguard has been designed to cover the wheel, but keeping them flush with the body. Let's now take a look at the side of the 932, starting with a general overview of the main features. First of all, it should be said that this is a very simple car whose lines are barely visible on the body side. The line is more evident on the front and rear mudguards. The windows are relatively small and the shoulders of the car are quite high. Now let's go into greater detail. One of the details which will certainly have struck you is the handle. The front door handle lies in the center of gravity between this line and the rear line, almost as if it joins them up. The presence of a single handle can be attributed to the fact that we want this car to be recognizable and to have a strong personality even when you walk past it, not only when you see it in the rear mirror or when it appears on the road in front of you. We are therefore struck by an outstandingly unique feature, a highly personal feature on the side, also because the rear door handle is positioned at the end of the rear door window. This is a very important detail because it is decisive for the car's clean-cut line and gives it tremendous personality. As I remarked earlier about the front, and as we will gradually move towards the rear of the car, you can see that the bumper ceases to resemble a real bumper, but becomes an extension of the car's shape and body. Flush with the body, the flush bumper blends into the rear mudguards. And the shoulder. This real shoulder gives great strength to the rear view of the car and exceptional on-the-road presence. Let's now move on to the rear of the car. The car tapers considerably. You can see how the roof tapers around a drop-shaped rear window. The tail is short and compact. The light clusters are small. I might say that they are traditionally embedded like gems. The Alfa Romeo mark is obviously in the center, thus giving an incredibly strong presence on the road. We end up, of course, with the exhaust pipe and number plate incorporated into the bumper, true to tradition. Together, we have taken a turn round the car, virtually speaking, and we have seen it and received a first impression. Now, I would like to replace my words with my pencil. As you know, I really prefer language, so why do I want to use my pencil? Because I want to follow the same path using drawing, because by drawing we can retrace the key points of the 932. So let's go to the drawing board. I'll now draw you the car, starting with the details. For example, let's start with the shield. As we said earlier, the shield is an extremely important element in this car because it creates a proportion, a dimension of the car itself that was no longer present in our past models. Its presence is important because we needed shapes and dominant personalities. Then I can draw the whiskers, as they are referred to in jargon, and you can see that I am not yet drawing the car, but I'm just tracing the key elements that distinguish its design, its styling. The 4 small air inlets. The 932 isn't visible yet, but watch. I'll draw the light clusters, as we said, under a single transparent cover, with 4 round headlamps enclosed within the outline, and then we move up into the V-shaped hood, and look, the 932 suddenly takes shape. The wide shoulders. Did you notice how I emphasized the mudguards and wide shoulders? The car's on-the-road presence is and will be extremely important because it will be a car that's not easily forgotten. The wheels, as I said, flush for all wheel sizes. The wide mouth with the fog lamps and air inlet. The bumpers on this shell that forms an integral part of the body. The side number plate. And there we are. You can see how the 932 has taken shape, and is a true Alfa Romeo. After this, we turned to the side of the car. We pointed out that the side is extremely important because the side line of the 932 has a particularly personal profile that overflows with personality. Our angle is clearly visible in the rear section where we said the handle was. Then there is a side line that in effect is very much present on the front wheel and back wheel. An extremely clean-cut side. And the handle joins these two lines that are emphatically present on the two wheelhouses. The window surface was reasonably small, we said, because the shoulders are relatively high and protective. And the central handle acts as a connection, joining the side together. I don't want to draw the whole car now, but you can see how the 932 is extremely personal seen from the side. The rear part, which we studied to give the new 155 a very attractive back view, but at the same time, one that transmits the presence and personality that we wanted. Let's go back for a moment to the subject of shoulders, at the cost of being repetitive, but it's a very important concept. The shoulders and the presence and the drop onto the wheels. Therefore, also from the rear we achieve this sort of feeling, I repeat, with all wheel types. The tail, as I told you, is relatively compact, slightly drooping and extremely tapered, both for aerodynamic reasons and also in terms of impact when the car overtakes me. And then the light clusters, which are like real small embedded gems. And this gives a tremendously strong and extremely personal image of our Alfa Romeo. The mark, always positioned at the highest point of the tailgate, right on the edge of the tailgate, the bumpers that obviously incorporate the two reflectors, and the number plate set into the lower part. You see how, by redescribing the car as I draw it, I succeed in highlighting the key features, everything that gives expression and power to the 932. A lot of attention and careful work has been focused on the interior, and we have reintroduced the use of the two separate instruments. The driver therefore looks straight at two separate instruments. The tachometer and the rev counter, with a series of pilot lights and a check panel in the center. This represents a very simple concept, because these two separate instruments form part of an instrumentation panel dedicated to the driver. The gear lever is quite high, but in an easy-to-reach position. There are 3 service instruments mounted on a fascia containing an integrated radio, ashtray, and a whole series of other components. Using contoured and well-coordinated forms. This produces quite a simple interior and dashboard, but one that is by no means poor. In fact, customers can choose the steering wheel, gear lever, dashboard, and instruments from a wide array of options and possibilities. When you've had a chance to see it, and I hope appreciate it, you'll also discover that there's a large diffuser. The air is ducted in a slightly different way compared to normal in order to produce the effect of climatization rather than direct ventilation. But nonetheless, we have fulfilled the desire to have an Alfa Romeo driving posture and interior. Well, I've now come to the end of my drawings. I just want to tell you that this car has been designed using intelligence, but also passion. And therefore, I can hand it over to you in virtual terms, and I'm sure that you will present it and launch it onto the market with the same feeling. This is a symbolic act, but I am certain that the success of the 932 will depend on us all and this hard-working team. Thank you, and carry on with the good work.